Hello and welcome to Mind Mutter Matters. My name is John Usher from mindmuttermatters.com. I invite you to join me as we explore our inner voice and the inevitability of identity and all that brings with it. Hey, hi, hello. Welcome. Come on in. This is podcast number 3, and I gotta say, I am enjoying this podcast making process, not only about making podcasts, but also just condensing the information of Mind Mutter into these bite-sized chunks, make it easier for people to understand and get involved in. I hope you're enjoying them too. And in saying that, I also I've had people say they don't like their Mind Mutter. Their Mind Mutter is critical, judgmental. And I can raise my hand and say, yeah, I was also at a stage a victim of a judgmental, critical Mind Mutter. And that's the point of these podcasts, is so that we can unpack what it is and we can look at some of the control panel. What do we do in order to control, in order to shape and mold our Mind Mutter to something that benefits us, something that we like, something that we enjoy, something that helps us create and manifest the world that we want to live in. So in this podcast today, we're going to talk about what is Mind Mutter exactly. I talk about the point of origin, where does it come from? And I'm going to give you some interesting characteristics just so that you can start to recognize it, understand it, and maybe mold yours to make it a bit friendlier. So let's jump into it with a statement that's probably going to scare and confuse you, is that Mind Mutter is not just one voice, it is a collection of voices, and it represents all of the identities that you have. Oh my gosh, what am I talking about? Maybe if I substitute the word identity for role, it make a bit more sense. So we have different roles that we play in our life. I'm, John the son, John the brother, I'm John the father, I'm John the podcaster, I'm John the author, I'm John the businessman. And each of these various roles that I play have a whole identity structure. It has an I am to it, it has values and beliefs to it, it has certain skills, it has certain behavior, and ideally they function within a certain environment. So John the trainer, for example, comes out when I'm in the classroom. So when I'm standing in front of a group of learners that are there for a specific reason, I'm in the classroom environment, John the trainer comes out. That is not the time or the space for John the lover to come out. Are you with? So the behavior is going to be dictated to by the circumstances, the context of the situation. Now, that identity has values and beliefs, and I want to share with you, what is a belief then? A belief is an emotionally held opinion. An emotionally held opinion is something that you had some information about and you had an emotional reaction to. That emotional reaction is a response to the memory of that information, that event, that situation, that circumstance. So as a child, I had an experience with a dog. I was riding a bicycle and I was obviously a busy little kid. So I had a clothes peg with a piece of cardboard, and the cardboard was stuck into the spokes of the bike, of the wheel. And as I was riding down the road, it was making this flapping sound, so da 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 da. And it was quite noisy, and it provoked a dog who ran out then and grabbed me by the leg, pulled me off my bike, and shook the bejinks out of me. So that is just information. That event caused emotions for me. So I developed somewhat of a fear of riding bicycles and dogs, that combination. And never mind just riding bicycles, big dogs. Any big dog, you can hear in my voice in terms of the trepidation there already. So my identity of John the dog avoider is charged with this emotional experience. And what Mind Mutter does is it scans our subconscious mind, and it goes and looks at all of the belief systems that have strong emotional connections. And it picks it up and it starts broadcasting it. It's got it on a loop, and it starts sharing that information with us out of the subconscious mind. And whether it's a voice, so I'm an auditory, I process information through conversation, through speech, and even in my head, if I was able to represent my thoughts, my mind, my imagination in some way, there's very few pictures. It's like a radio station. There's noises, voices, sounds, music, conversations, random words, random sounds. But that might not be you. The other representation would be as a visual. So visuals, if we could represent their mind in some way, it would be like watching a movie. So there's pictures, there's images, there's still pictures, there's moving pictures, motion pictures. And we can represent it through color, through, sharpness, focus, all these words that represent image and literally what you would use on a camera. And then we also have kinesthetics, which kinesthetics are all about action, motion, and feeling. So the tactile feeling as well as the emotions. In whichever way you interpret information and whichever sensory mode you use to communicate, that's the language pattern, that's the modality that your Mind Mutter will use in order to repeat the emotional event that you may have experienced. So I have a friend whose Mind Mutter just gives her still images. So every once in a while, she'll have these random still images. And these still images are so repetitive, she's actually lost the emotional connection to them already. The picture or the word or the conversation or the image or the feeling or the sensation that you experience is so deeply rooted in your subconscious mind. All Mind Mutter is doing it is just dropping a reminder, ding, to say, subconscious, this is still relevant. That's what Mind Mutter does. It is an automated affirmation process. It picks up stuff that you believe, that you feel, and it just repeats it. I think that is just phenomenal. I think that's exciting. I think that's wonderful. I think that's amazing. Because it is in the affirmation, it is in the repetitive process that we remain aware, sometimes unconsciously, but the unconscious is helping shape that reality. How? Everybody says to me, how can I say that? All right, so let's say, for example, you buy a red car. And before you bought a red car, you thought having a red car was unique, one of a kind, special, yay! And you buy this red car, and then all of a sudden you recognize how many red cars are out there. Having that red car suddenly made you aware just how many red vehicles are out there. And the unconscious and the Mind Mutter repeating belief systems makes you aware of that event, that emotion, of that situation in your life, and how often it comes about. When it's coming about often enough, we accept it as true. Once we've accepted it as true, we not only look for it, we naturally create it. We act like that. That confirmed belief, that confirmed emotion that we've now decided is absolute fact, starts to infiltrate our behavior. So now we act like that. I'll give you another example. As a kid, I was told in early development, early classes, that I was useless at maths, and I bought into that. The teacher made me aware of it on a frequent basis, so I bought into that. I started to believe this was true, and I started to act like that. So when I got into the classroom, I switched off a little bit. I became unaware of what was going on in the math class. And it wasn't to the last couple of years that I was in school that I realized that that wasn't necessarily my reality. It wasn't an identity that was true for me. It was one that I accepted because it was given to me by an authoritative figure. I believed it and I took it on, and I started acting as if it was true. It isn't true. It's not true. It never was true. I've got quite a mathematical brain. I've got a brain that likes logical processes. The reality is I bought into it and I conformed my behavior to that outcome. So that's what Mind Matter is. It is an automated affirmation system that just brings into remembrance all the time so that you are mindful enough of the emotion, of the belief system, of the values in order to influence your behavior. Okay, I also want to say to you, this was a very basic, very superficial explanation of how Mind Matter works, and we will delve down into its mechanisms as we go through these podcasts. Let me give you some of the characteristics. You can't shut Mind Matter up. Number one, you cannot shut Mind Matter up. It's going to roll. You can't cast it out. You can't remove it. You can't diminish it. You can control it though. You can manage the process. So there is a volume switch which you can turn on and off. There is a tone switch that you can affect the tone. And obviously there is a content control mechanism. So you can change the content from being negative to being more positive. So that's one of the characteristics that's very important about Mind Matter. There's no off switch. There are a whole load of dials that you can manage what it sounds like, what it looks like, what it makes you feel like. Characteristic number 2 is that Mind Matter has got your best interests at heart. Your Mind Matter is for you. It wants you to thrive. It wants you to be happy. It wants you to survive. It wants you to live. And I'm talking about it as if it was something separate. It's not separate from you. It is you. And you have your best interests at heart. You are not going to put yourself in this situation where you could potentially lose your life. And this, a lot of people have a tough time believing. And they say, but John, geez, the Mind Matter is so negative. Have you noticed how parents get very negative and very condescending and very screamy, shouty and threatening when their child is doing something that has the potential to hurt them, to kill them? I watched a kid the other day climbing up the bars. So living in South Africa, we have, decorative and security bars in front of our windows to prevent break-ins. And there was this 3-year-old child climbing up those bars. Little dude, and up he went, nappy on, no shoes, and he climbed as high as he could. And that put his body probably higher than my head. I'm 5'7", so he was above that. So if he had fallen, he would have got hurt. And immediately his mother started shouting, "Are you stupid? That's dangerous. You could get hurt." Blah, blah, blah. And she started spewing all of the negative consequences of his actions. You can get hurt. You could slip. You could fall. Why was she doing this? She was doing this because she was concerned for the well-being of her child. That well-being came across as negative. She was spewing all the negative consequences of his actions. And often people that have negative Mind Matter had parents that did the same. And their Mind Matter takes on the same tone. When you are doing something dangerous, it goes through all your past experiences and goes and collects those voices and starts, "Don't do that, you're going to slip, you're going to fall, you're going to get hurt." And gives you all the negativity in order for you to move away from the danger. It's protecting you by, in the same way as a parent would, by giving you the negative stuff in the hopes that you will let go and move away from it. There's imminent danger, move away from there, get away from there, don't do that. Now people look at that and say, geez, but the Mind Matter is negative. And I looked at the mother reprimanding her child or going to protect her child and aware of all the negativity that she spewed. And I could say, gosh, what a negative woman that was. Or is she just protective of her child? So if you've had a parent like that, the chances are your Mind Matter repeats that kind of information for you. And now we look at it and we say, gosh, what a negative Mind Matter. Okay, that's one point of view. What if your mind matter was just out to protect you. And if your mind matter was out to protect you and to look after you, what lesson can you take out of that? If you believed that mind matter had your best interest at heart, how would that change the way you think about your mind matter? How would that influence the tone of your mind matter? How would that influence your response to the instructions and criticism and negative, verbalization, articulation, or imagery that your mind matter was creating for you? I want you to take the fact that believing mind matter is negative, and I want you to dissolve that. I want you to break that down, renounce it, get rid of it, uncreate it, and I want you to replace it with, I want you to see the fact that mind matter is positive and has your best interest at heart. And everything that goes with that, in, out, B and D, crowns, fish, ice cream cones and more, in grace. That statement sounded like gobbledygook, didn't it? So the statement is just a opening affirmation. It is a way to open your heart and mind to seed new possibilities, to destroy the old way of thinking and everything that it represents, and to open yourself to a new possibility, a new way of thinking. And if there was a new way of thinking, what else would be possible? What else could it create in your life? What else could it do for you? How could it make your life better? How could it make your life more impactful? That's where I'm going to stop on mind matter and its two characteristics that I've shared with you today. If you've liked this podcast, please help me grow this channel. Click like, leave me a comment, subscribe, share this podcast with others that may be seeking to understand their inner voice, as well as searching more about their identity. You are welcome to search for more on mindmattermatters.com or johnusher.com. And I hope to see you next time. Keep it real. Bye now.